better than church. Before I met my wife, we met each other doing relief work after Katrina, and the church that we went to and gathered at, their service opportunity kind of fell into their lap. They thought that they were going to have their inaugural service. Yes, it was a brand new church building, and they got an opportunity to turn around and use that church building in rough ways, buddy, to turn their sanctuary into a warehouse. And even the miracles, there could be books written if we compiled all the people who were there and saw literal miracles taking place. And it was an encouragement to everyone who passed through there. Our theme was, where did you see Jesus that day? They would come up to me. I was kind of a leader in that situation, and they would say, you know what, this is better than church. and I knew what they meant. A lot of people are coming from a perspective that the spiritual thing that you do is go to church on Sunday. Everything else is just kind of like filling in the time till you get to do your spiritual stuff on Sunday again. And what these people were experiencing in real life was ministry, prayer, was loving people, was outpouring themselves, giving of themselves as living sacrifices. They were doing God's work, even though they were sweating by their brow. The overwhelming response was, this is better than church. And what they meant is, I had no idea that we could have such a spiritually fulfilling time outside of the walls of the church. So, function of the new temple being distributed and not collected, and it's everywhere, not somewhere. And this can get us into the now, today, and here concept of what should drive Christian worship, Christian spirituality in general. It's everywhere. It's anywhere. It's where the Spirit takes you. It's less specific than the institutional church would have you believe. Now, how can you ruin such a good vibe of where people are moved and are reignited again in spiritual things, and have a new fire from the Spirit of helping people and working with other Christians and even non-Christians? This is how you do it. Okay, so the church was in a period of kind of hurting because they had lost a lot of their members due to the Hurricane Katrina, and they were kind of unsure about their future. They were quite sure about what they were doing today. Today they were helping people. As the Lord would have it, resources were coming in from everywhere. So they were using their own resources, but a lot of other people were giving resources. The thing I think that killed that whole vibe, it didn't kill it. It just, like Proverbs 7 says, it shot it in the liver. And so it was a slow bleed to kill it out. The day that the preacher at that church said, we got these t-shirts that have our name on it, but we're not really getting a lot of traction, as a church. Sometimes these people don't even know who we are. His response was, why don't we draw our calling card in here so they'll know who it was, and they'll know who to come thank, who to come worship with when the time comes. And, that sounds good if you're all about the Sunday show. But if you're all about serving people, well, that's already been done. If you're all about glorifying God, it's not about you taking the credit for anything. What your business model requires of the people who are served by its resources. And when you start trying to take over those things and try to control them and funnel them back into your organization, people are going to read right through that. And I don't think people like that. I think people want to be free. People don't want to be in bondage to the local church. Religious industrial complex. I love this simple term because it defines itself. If you've ever heard of the Eisenhower phrase that he used when he was exiting the office of president, he warned the American people not to let the military industrial complex take over America because they were powerful and influential and they were money hungry and their needs would never stop. And doesn't that sound a lot like the churches that are always needing to grow, always needing to model their growth, always needing to expand, or always feel like they need to pump up the membership or reach out to the community? And I think what the community sees when that happens is they're after me. The church has not done a great job of letting people know that Jesus is after them and not as important to us that they come to church as that they come to Christ. Most churches have about three things that they want to emphasize, and that is worshiping God, encouraging one another, building up, each other, and then the third one is reaching out to the community and saving the lost. And all the places I've ever been involved with, nobody has a problem with 1 and 2. And what the big problem comes is number 3. So do you ever feel pressure to evangelize? Do you feel embarrassed that you aren't sharing your faith enough? Do you consider it a burden to have to share your faith? Why does it always seem so difficult? If we take this responsibility into our own laps, then it is frustrating. It is a venture that we will always seem to fail. I think one of the textual ideas that we need to be friendly with is that if Christ is lifted up on that cross from the earth, it will draw all men unto him. The drawing is what happened with Christ. And I like the righteous reign concept that the prophet Isaiah talked about, how everybody can relate to rain. The righteousness of God rains down from heaven, and just like rain falls down from the sky and waters the earth, makes the plant get healthy, makes bread for people who need to eat, and doesn't make the bread, but it makes the plants that make the bread. And righteousness from God is the same. It comes down from him, most remarkably through Jesus Christ. And the job of righteousness is to make the world a better place through love and kindness. Righteousness is the way of peace, and it conquers all lack of peace, all warring. And righteousness gives the sinner a reason to stop sinning, and it gives righteous people the reason to keep doing good. And Jesus said in John 16 that it was the Holy Spirit's job to convict the world of sin and judgment. It's the job of believers to speak up and proclaim the goodness of God. And sometimes all it takes is to ask someone to believe. And it kind of takes the pressure off of you, doesn't it? Jeff Vanderstelt said that you don't have to have training or any kind of special classes about how to talk about God if you are truly in love with him.